Weather Bats back for another episode. It is October 30th. It's nearly November. One step closer, 1 month closer to the season. I've got Michael Rubenstein to my left, and it's a beautiful day because it feels a lot like fall.
It feels like fall, but it's cold. It's cold.
It's cold, but we're officially entering, this feels and looks like November, right? So, but that's good. I always get excited when it gets cold because that means we are officially in the in-betweens. And the in-betweens are the most important part of the year. I mean, obviously the cliches, and you can say coach speak, but it's true. Obviously, you need to work hard in the off season. You need to find ways to get better and evaluate yourself as a player, and then go identify your strengths and weaknesses and find a way to make the most of each of those throughout your off season. And a lot of good developers in this state, so I'm sure there's plenty of that going on. But the in-betweens are the most important part of success come springtime. So, we emphasize that, and it's just one of those things where when it gets cold outside, that's when it's the in-betweens. And hardest time of the year if you're from Michigan, right? I talked to our kids about this at our inaugural meeting. I said the hardest time to get work done is when it's cold outside, no matter what you do. Now add into the fact that it's a sport that's outdoors at all times. You never play indoor unless you're like 11 playing at old school Liberty Park, shout out. But in today's world where they're playing travel ball all over the country, they're forced to train indoors in the winter. And if you're a pitcher, huge advantage, I think. I think it's been said many times by college coaches I've spoken to that cold weather arms are valued because they're not as they don't have as much wear and tear. So there are some advantages to it. But for hitters and for defensive players, it's obviously, unless you've got a really nice indoor turf facility, it's hard to replicate and train to replicate what you're going to end up playing in the environment you're playing in come spring. But that's just everyone's playing field in Michigan outside of the few lucky ones who do have, turf facilities or access to these turf facilities, et cetera. We obviously know the MHSAA and the rules they impose on development, and they limit development by imposing those rules. And we've always stuck by that opinion from the very beginning of this show, and that's not going to change until they change. So that's another huge hurdle people have to jump. So the in-betweens are important. Lean on your summer programs that have access to these facilities that don't have the handcuffs that these high school programs have from the MHSAA, and make the most of this time. Those are the in-betweens. Any thoughts on the in-betweens, Coach Ruby?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I like how you phrased all of that. It's exactly how I would always talk about it with all my guys, and I talk about it now with our entire organization. That's where you get better, right? That's where you're able to put in the work that maybe other people on your team aren't putting into that same extent, whether it's your travel or your high school team. Go out there and just do more, right? And I was, from growing up and playing and starting as a coach, I feel like one of the few that I loved practice. I loved going to the facility and hitting in the cages for hours upon hours, trying to figure out how to go, backside a little bit better, using my backside better while I'm hitting, and going with the pitch and learning how to throw certain off-speed pitches. Like that was fun for me. We've had conversations with other people where, back in my day, baseball was X, Y, and Z. And really it's true though. Like back in my day, like we'd go out and we weren't trying to get those exit velos and those velocities. It was about just trying to do certain things in the game. And those are the types of things you can do. You don't need a radar gun. You don't need a hit tracks or a Rapsoda or whatever we're using for, this year. You can go out there and grab a tee and improve. And it's really something that, as it's getting colder, the weather's getting colder, go out there and do it. If you can go out and long toss still, do it as much as you can before it's really, impossible to do so. Stretch those arms out as you can and start building it up for the seasons.
Yeah, I think what we talk about a lot is like this sport is so conducive to overthinking. Everything moves really slowly in this game. Naturally, your brain's going to think more when things are slower.
Yeah.
There's more time to think. Football and your contact sports, even basketball, where it's very tempo. The only times things slow down is when you're setting up for a set and hoops and everything. Baseball is a lot different, right? The game plays only one pitch at a time. Everything in between that is spitting seeds, shout out, or, what have you. And there's just a lot of time to think in that empty time. And, greatest and easiest example is like a kid will use a different bat.
Yep.
He didn't get a hit, and it was like his 5th at bat in a row over the last week without getting a hit, and he switches the bat middle of the game. That's a great example of overthinking, but it's just like not productive at all. So I tell my kids to overthink during November, December, and January. Like, that's overthink season. Like, think about everything about your swing during that time and work on it and record it and watch it over again and figure out ways to get better at it, because you have like a ton of time to get better at that. If we are in May and we're 2 weeks from the season starting, we're probably still in a phase where we can get better at things at this level, but like, it's not a good time at all in comparison to, like, at that point you're 30 games into this, and so long as you're not dead in a slump, there's no reason to change much outside of some fine tuning, right? Whether it's just shortening my stride or making a quick adjustment with like my hand placement or how my shoulders get through the zone, anything like that. Defensively, obviously, you can always get better, but as the swing goes, like, we never overthink anything quite like the swing. Not a pitcher. I'm sure pitchers overthink a lot about pitch choice and pitch placement and release point and all that. Now's the time to work on those things. It's the best time of the year to work on those things. I do firmly believe this is when everyone makes their biggest leaps. And, this is hard to see that in real time. But, stack your days. Like we always say, how many days have we been in here? Okay, let's say it's January 15th, and this is our 27th 4-man of the year. Well, you've been to every 4-man and you've been to every lift, because we do lifts as well. And it's like, okay, this is day 45. Have you put in, like, in 45 days of work, how do you feel? Because if you haven't seen obvious progression in something, or you can't quantify any sort of progress, there's a problem. But by stacking those days and counting those days, you're at least aware, where you're like, oh crap, I've wasted 45 days of my workout. And yeah, I almost slipped there, but that's fine. And there was a time when it slipped and we didn't really care. But yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things where it's cliche. I get it, but it's the best time of the year to just put all that work in and overthink as much as possible, and tweak as much as you can, and just see what works, and test and test and test and test and test. And, by the time we get to March, you're at day 150, while a lot of the kids at tryouts are at day 10. And that ultimately is the difference.
Well, we have a jam-packed episode for you all today, and really we're excited about it. But before we get into it, if you are streaming this on YouTube, you will see in the bottom corner here we have a new partner of ours that we are partnering with, and that is Smackin' Sunflower Seeds. They are giving the Cold Weather Bat listeners 10% off. So you can either hit the link in the description or the QR code in the top right of your screen. If you're looking at this on YouTube, go ahead and shop and get those seeds. I personally haven't had them yet. I've heard from many people how good they are. They are all over all social media, and looking forward to trying them. So they are really, they got all kinds of flavors. Check them out. Look at their website and get your 10% off the Smackin' Sunflower Seeds. Now, for today's show, we're going to get right into the top 100. We are down to number 85 through 81. Brandon, we have all kind of sides of the state here that we're going to be touching on here shortly. Should be some really good players that we're about to talk on here.
Yeah, and there's one specific team that's got 2 guys on this list that could, easily make the case to be higher up. But we've got a piece coming out in a couple of weeks that talks about, some of the underrated our teams in the state. And I'll throw a spoiler alert out that team is certainly one of them. They creeped into the top 10 last year at some point, I believe. But they're not a team that's traditionally there in terms of the last 10 plus years, however you want to decide it. And they've been really, really solid over the years, but I think what they have coming in this year is pretty legit. And over the next 2 to 3 years, they're going to be very legit. So excited to talk about that school. But yeah, on top of that, cover a little bit of every area. Definitely our goal with this list is to make sure it's comprehensive and that, we're not leaving anybody out. There's been big schools, there's been small schools. There's a small school in this list I've never heard of personally. Again, no offense to that school. We'll talk about that when that comes up. But yeah, super exciting list. I always love learning about catchers around the state. Got a chance to learn about one in today's list, and excited to talk about him. And yeah, great list.
And from there, we're going to get into our interview, and that is one that we are going to have quite a bit of interest in hearing from these guys. If you are in the youth travel ball scene here in the state of Michigan, you haven't missed this yet, right? USSSA, they are currently no longer in the state. Jake Hornbacher and Andrew Meier, they have picked up and they have moved on over to Perfect Game. If you are a director, a coach, or a parent, or even a kid that's listening and you're curious, what does that mean for me? What does that mean for my child, my team, our organization? Well, you are going to hear right from the mouth of these two here shortly. And you're going to learn a little bit about what is to come. And we're quite excited about this snippet you are going to hear from our interview with those two guys here in just a bit. But first, obviously, we are going to get right into our top 100, numbers 85 through 81, and we will get right into that right after a break that we are going to have with our apparel partner, that is G Brand here in Metro Detroit. They have been a big supporter of cold weather bats. If you are a team and organization that's looking for a way to take your apparel to the next level, be sure to reach out over to our friends here at G Brand.
The store is set up. He's got the order, and he's off. It's a full court press. These brands are knocking it out of the park. This, my friends, is the speed we've come to expect from this team. Just look at the precision of that move. And it's out of here.
All right, Brandon. Now that's going to take us right on into our top 100 update here. So as we get on into this here, we talked on off season already. If you are looking to take your bats to the next level, we have our Just Bats giveaway that by the time this comes out is now going to be complete over on Instagram. They were kind enough to partner with us, but you were able to support the show by going to justbats.com with our URL that we have. So if you're on YouTube, again, the QR code in the top corner can get you right over there to support the show, or you can find that on any of our socials. All right, that takes care of all the back office type things. Let's get into the good stuff here, Brandon. Let's just go right into it. Number 85. We have a player coming in from Cransbrook Kingswood. We got Colton Richardson. What can you tell us about Colton here?
Yeah, Colton Richardson, Cranbrook kid, USA Prime National kid. So he's really legit in terms of how he stacks up against his peers. Young kid, I think he's going to be a junior this year. Nope, he is a sophomore. So we got a young kid, sophomore, still coming into his own, but definitely profiles as a guy who can get up into the 90s by the time he's an upperclassman. He's already maxing out at around 86 and sitting more in the 84 to 85 range when healthy. Really good stuff. Curveball slider mixes really well. Spins everything really well. It's all over 2K spin wise. As a batter, it's solid, but more so interested in what he does as a pitcher as of right now, just based on what I saw. I haven't seen a ton of him at the plate. But as a pitcher, really good stuff. Probably a guy who profiles to be a frontline ace for Cranbrook over the next 3 years, and will get an opportunity to, whenever you talk about frontline aces, the first thought you have to have is, can they win the big one? Because the way that the state makes our playoff format, it's win or go home. So a frontline ace can really win you that one game you need to win. Some of us have districts where we need to win one big game to get through, and we can rely on our pen to get through the rest, whereas some of us have to win 2 or 3 games. I think Cranbrook and Wyandotte can relate that their districts are not easy by any stretch of the imagination. But Richardson does give them a guy who can go square for square with someone on the opposite side from one of those big schools they've got to face in their district. I believe it includes Brother Rice and the likes of. And he's one of those guys who will certainly profile as a guy that we think will be one of the probably 50 best arms in the state this season, and one of the better in his class. So excited about him. Long, lanky body. I mean, his profile is really well. Be throwing what he's throwing and he's still kind of undersized. As he fills out, it's only going to get better. I'm imagining he'll spend his winter filling out. Being a national program kid, those kids always are being developed, right? And so you definitely buy the stock here. 84 is Ryer Olson with 2 S's on Olson, which I failed to realize when I was writing his blurb because I wrote Olson probably 3 different ways.
You did. You definitely did.
Ryer Olson out of EGR. I'm just really big fan of this kid because of he's 6'4", 180, and B, already committed to D1 Maine as a guy who's probably viewed more so as a project, as a Division I prospect, more or less, but really like what he has in terms of what it's going to do in the MHSAA level. He's going to run it up to the high 8s this season. He's got 3 breakers to complement the fastball. Always really like that, especially the fact that he's got command over those pitches and a lot of feel for the secondary stuff. Did not throw a pitch slower than 85 and topped out at 87 with 4 Ks, allowing just 1 hit across 2 innings when he went to future games. I'm not a huge showcase guy. I think that it's a good way of testing your metrics and what your potential and ceiling may be. Ultimately, you have to play the game, and bat has to connect with ball, and ball has to go in glove and strike zone. That's the end of the day. But what he was able to do at future games, which is a PBR event, it's a great barometer for talent. I mean, it's especially pitchers. You can be a tremendous small school pitcher, which he's not. EGR is a big school, but I just mean in general, you can be a tremendous small school pitcher in this state and then go play the summer circuit and kind of get hammered and nobody really talks about it. But Olson, not one of those guys. Went down to future games, is I would not say a relative unknown, but he definitely was sliding under the radar in terms of the state, and he went to future games and put on a show, and ultimately was able to commit to Maine from it. And awesome stats last year, 48 strikeouts in 45 innings, a 1.2 ERA, a 190 batting average against, 62% strikes, and a 5-2 record. So, really put together an undeniable season last year, and a big reason why he's on the list.
And we are going to be staying out this way for our next one. We have our first position player. We have Nolan Booth out in Byron Center as well, shortstop, right-handed pitcher. Going to be a senior guy that can throw it on the mound as well, but looks like to be a defensive ace for Byron Center as well.
Yeah, not to be confused with the character that Ryan Reynolds played in some movie. I forget what it was, but his name was Nolan Booth in that movie. Different guy. 5'11", right around 180, pretty physical in the lower half, which is really nice. Upper half has some room to grow physically, but you can definitely see like what's there and what's coming for him physically. I think it'll play really well at the next level. But ultimately, what this kid brings to the table is just a lot of versatility. He can go play shortstop and throws it 90 plus across the diamond with 6'6" speed. That gives him a lot of range to get left to right. Uses the hips really well, very loose, very fluid. At the plate, huge fan of the hand placement, very consistent with the mechanics on the swing, and he's hitting it about 98 off the bat, which was his top speed from PBR. But usually it's I think he took 15 swings that day, and there wasn't one that came off the barrel lighter than 93. So you can tell there's a lot of pop there. Just your classic like grit grinder, dirtbag guy, high speed, high effort. Had a bunch of extra base hits for his team last year. Defensive ace type of guy, but he also goes in the mound and runs it up to 86 and had a 0.51 ERA for Byron Center. Profiles as a position player at Davenport where he's committed. He is a senior, and this is the team I was talking about at the top of the show here. Byron Center is absolutely a team to watch come tournament time. They have pitching, they have position players, they've got plenty of offense to boot. I think Byron Center might be that team on the west side this year. I have not been able to dive deep enough in it to call it that, but I can tell you Byron Center is one of the 15 best teams in the state regardless right now. So.
All right, and that'll take us to 82, and that takes us out to the village of Marcellus, which for those that are unfamiliar with it, that's about it's a little southwest of Kalamazoo, and that brings us to 82. Cale Hackenberg, catcher, another one that looks to have shown out at the future games as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, huge fan of this kid, not to be confused with Christian Hackenberg, famously failed Penn State quarterback. But Cale Hackenberg, stud, 6'1", 180, really physical, exactly what you want your catcher to look like, stocky build. Really where it jumps off the sheet, though. He's a left-handed hitter. Anytime you can get a left-handed hitting catcher, you're feeling really good about that. just in terms of what he can bring to the table. If anyone doesn't know this, like, you always value a left-handed hitter over a right-handed hitter. That's just always in terms of just raw profile. And if you can get a right-handed fielder, defender, and a left-handed bat, you're feeling even better about that. Not the opposite. We actually had 2 kids come in that were left-handed bats and right-handed throwers the other day. And we were like, those are like unicorns, but not in a good way, unfortunately. So huge fan of Hackenberg, though. Hit the scene hard this summer. Went to PBR's future games. Stood out. Very rare, speedy left-handed hitting catcher. 35 stolen bases and 7 triples last year. As I believe as a junior or as a sophomore. Yeah, as a sophomore last year. I understand he's playing in a small school league with Marcellus and everything, but ton of pop from the left side. Everything was 93 plus off the bat at PBR. Had a high of 100.9, so he can hit triple digits. And then again, it's testing. I'm not sitting here saying exit velocity translate, but he had results last year. 7 triples, 35 stolen bases, nearly a 990 fielding percentage, meaning he only made 1 or 2 mistakes all season behind the plate. Only thing that I'd like to see get better for him is the arm strength, but he's super quick with his hips. He's really knows how to get from catch to throw in an efficient way. Footwork's really solid. The catch and throw is really natural and easy. So huge fan of him as a backstop. And then you watch him hit, very reminiscent of Dom Kropinski. He's at Miami, Ohio right now, also a left-handed hitting catcher, former Churchill standout. Loved him as a prospect. Really like Hackenberg as well. I think they're very similar.
Hackenberg also, if my memory serves correctly, is one of the players that PBR director Adam Goodwin was quite high on at the beginning of spring last year, and looks like he is one that has proved Adam Goodwin correct thus far. So that'll take us to 81, our second Byron Center entry here for this next group of 5, and we have Keaton Van Kampen, right-handed pitcher, third baseman over there for Byron Center, a class of 2027 player here.
Yeah, man, there's 2 more kids on this list from Byron Center, and I don't know if I got it wrong. I don't know if Keaton's the best one. I don't know if Booth is the best one. I don't know if the one that hasn't been listed yet, but will be listed soon, is the best one. But it's one of the 3. And I think when it's all said and done, Van Kampen and the other, who are both 27s, are going to be top 15 players in the state potentially by the time they're seniors. Van Kampen's potential is absolutely through the roof, like the highest of roofs. 6'3", 175, long, lanky, twitchy, everything you want out of a frame at his age going into the junior season. Present velo, runs it up to 88.7, so let's just call that 89. Spins it extremely well. Curveball, slider, changeup mix. Feel for every secondary. 3 compliments to the fastball. Everything funnels well. Had a great outing under the lights at future games, so can do it against high competition. Plays good summer ball. And then the thing that really stood out to me was Van Kampen. I knew about the arm. I saw it at future games on video and everything, and I knew about the arm. I went and looked at the bat. I mean, he had a home run last year as a sophomore. He had 2 triples. He was second on the team in RBIs. He hit nearly 350 as a sophomore on varsity in a Division I really tough schedule out west. Huge fan of this kid. The fastball is really firm and heavy. It's very reminiscent of Avery Goldensoff, a former Swan Valley standout that played at Michigan, was a right-handed pitcher. Avery could hit, no dog in Avery by any means. We love Juice, but he was mostly going to go pitch no matter what. Van Kampen has the ability to go 2-way at the next level. He's already a star from a 2-way side standpoint, and huge fan of this kid's profile. Think it's going to be heavy results for Byron Center this year. It already was last year. Anytime you can look at your sophomore and say, okay, you're potentially our ace, but we have options that are really good. But you're potentially our ace. You're definitely somewhere in the middle of our order. You were second on our team in RBIs last year as a sophomore. Now I get 2 more years of you, and you're 6'3", nearly 180, and you're just now physically coming into your body, and we get 6 months to get that body right before March. And it's very easy to be excited about Van Kampen. Without a doubt, the number 1 candidate so far from 100 to I think we're at 81 now. So from 100 to 81, without a doubt, the guy I would say I could be wrong on. It could be way higher.
I don't know. I've heard that a few times.
Well, you're going to continue to hear it. It's very difficult difficult to make these lists. Like, it's
It
very
is.
difficult to say, because Halberstadt's on this list, and he plays at Wyandotte and everything. We're very excited about him, and we hear other people talk about him. And my thought was I too low on him? For my first thought was, do I put him on the list? I don't know. Maybe I'm getting Wyandotte eyes. I don't know. But I've had this conversation about probably every player, right? So I'll probably continue to have it as well.
So we are, 100 through 81 already. Brandon, what is your take thus far as the overall state of the players here in the state of Michigan? Do you feel that we're getting close to, a year that is potentially going to have the talent that we've had in years past, like the 2022s and years around then, or where are we at in terms of the talent here for the state?
It's a tough question. I don't know if we'll ever be what we had in 22, 23, 21. Those classes were just unbelievable. There was an argument that Alex Mooney wasn't the best player in the state for a while in his class, and that was class 21.
Yep.
And, he's the one playing pro ball right now. And you think about all those kids who were in each of those classes and where they're at now. And, the focus is always on the Mary's teams back then, because obviously they pumped out plenty of talent, but there's all sorts of guys all over the map from all over the state from those classes that are still playing baseball in some capacity, whether it be Division I or professionally. A lot of both too. Guys who have shined at their college programs as well, right? Like, where did we have the Bennett kid? Where did we have the Morrison kid at Coastal? Like, Morrison kind of blended in.
I can say, from firsthand experience with Jacob Morrison. I mean, he was on a team that had lots of very good players, and he didn't in high school separate himself to the extent of what it is now. Like, he was a dude, but he wasn't like how he was over at Coastal by any means. And I've known him for a while, and he was very, very good, but not to this extent.
Right. And I think that's kind of what it all goes back to, though. It's like the amount of depth there was back then was just unheard of. I mean, the 30th best player in the state was still playing Power 4 baseball sometimes. Like, it was unheard of for the state. I still think it's a great state. I still think there's a lot of great players. I just don't think we'll ever get to that scale ever again. But I'm a big fan of the 28 and the 29 classes. I think those two classes are going to help. 27 is pretty solid too, but 28 and 29 are big time. Especially the 28s, man, there's a lot of really good players who are going to play baseball this year that you didn't hear of last year in the sophomore class. They're going to shine big time. Brother Rice probably going to be the number one source for that. I think they've got like 4 really, really good dudes coming onto the team this year that played a bit last year, but are going to have to be key components to success for the Warriors this year. And, we'll talk about them later on, but, heard great things about these kids. Already had one on the list, and we'll continue to have a couple of more, but yeah, I think we're definitely heading towards the right direction. I think that we did fall off a bit naturally. I mean, like, I want to emphasize naturally because of how unbelievable it was from 21 to 23. And 24 was solid. 25 was okay. I didn't think 25 was great. I thought 25 was one of the weaker classes of the past few years. Not to discredit or disgrade what they did. I think there's plenty of talent, and there's going to be kids who go play a lot of baseball. But, you talk about the 26s right now, they've probably got 2 draft picks. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. I think Michigan is not going anywhere in terms of the national spotlight. I think we'll routinely be one of the 10 best states in the country at baseball. I think in 2022 and 23, we're probably one of the 6 best states at baseball, if not one of the 5 best states at baseball. Back when St. Mary's had won 2 straight national titles, and all those guys went and played Power 4 baseball, and they were all very competitive and starters for the most part in Power 4 baseball, which goes to show just how good they were. I think we'll have less of that in these classes, but it doesn't mean that, we've fallen off this great decline. It's just we've naturally regressed into something a little bit more normal, but still absolutely routinely going to be one of the 10 best states in the country for high school baseball talent. A big reason why we started this show was that nobody realized that, and nobody wanted to talk about that, and nobody wanted to spotlight that. And that was the original origins to the show. And we did it in 21 before the golden era, quote unquote, as we call it famously, became a thing and stretched out over 3 years' time. And, we're here now, 5 years later, 4 years later, 5 years later, and still a very talented state. Just, I don't know how many Schuberts are walking around anymore. And, there's 1, maybe there's not 6. So,
Well, that kind of leads us right from one into the next with all of these years that we've had of good baseball. There's a lot of classes that aren't even in high school yet that are going to be quite good as well. That is going to lead us right into our interview segment. I know we're going to have a lot of people tuning in for this segment as well. That's going to bring us to our interview we have with Jake Hornbacher and Andrew Meier. Now over at Perfect Game. A great conversation we're going to have with these guys. If you are in youth baseball in the state of Michigan, again, these names are names you know. You might not know their faces, you might not know their voices, you might not know their stories, but you know their names from the events with USSSA. We've all grown up either coaching, playing, or watching these tournaments, the Super NITs, the Firecracker tournaments, all these tournaments trying to get the points, getting the trophies. These are all things that is really synonymous with all of us growing up here in travel baseball in the state of Michigan, playing at Canton Sports Park. Brandon, we referenced earlier Liberty, who's rest in peace, Liberty Sports Park. Rest in peace. We are going to have really it's moving forward in a great direction here with Perfect Game. We are very excited about it. One thing we've talked about is looking at the trajectory of these arms going from freshman to senior. One of the things we're going to get into here with these guys, that's no longer the cusp of what we can get into now. We can start getting these velocities on these kids as early as possible at 8U now. At 8U, we're going to have the ability to start tracking some of these velocities, seeing the depth and the progress of these players as well. You are going to hear all about it here shortly. So on the other side of this break, you will hear from our conversation with Jake Hornbacher and Andrew Meier. Baseball is 90% mental, and now with Python, you can finally train that part of your game. Python measures reaction time, decision making, focus, and even tracks recovery and sleep to give you the mental edge every player needs. We're excited to welcome Python to the Cold Weather Bats family. As part of this partnership, Cold Weather Bats listeners get 10% off when using promo code CWB10 when they order at python.com/coldweatherbats. Don't just train your body, train your mind. Unlock your potential with Python today. All right, if you've ever spent a weekend at Canton Sports Park in the summer, you've probably been a part of one of these guys' events for years. They've helped run some of the biggest tournaments in the state, and now they are taking that experience and bringing it on over to Perfect Game, where they are helping launch Perfect Game here in Michigan. Jake, Andrew, good to see you guys. How's everything been? I know it's been a busy fall, a busy year, getting things rolling for next season here.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's been good. It's been crazy. It's been a lot of work. Still doing the onboarding process, but it's getting there. Everything's coming together, and we're really excited about what's happening here in Michigan.
Yeah, agree. It's been busy, to say the least. Very busy.
I can only imagine. I can only imagine with that. So to start, both of you have been involved for quite a while in youth baseball. What originally got you guys each into running events? Walk people through the background that they might know your names from signing up for the events with USSSA, but let's look behind the curtain a little bit. Tell the listening world a little about Jake Hornbacher and Andrew Meier here, and what kind of got you guys to where you're at here today.
I started off in the baseball journey just because my kid wouldn't go on the t-ball field without me out there, so I've been coaching up until this year. Actually, this is my first year not coaching a team. So all my boys out there, make sure that you keep on grinding hard and give your new coach the same amount of hassle that you gave me all those years. Obviously, my day job is in customer service there, and I saw an opportunity to work with Jake and stuff. So I reached out to him at one point and said, Hey Jake, you're going to bring me on. And I think we'd make good pairing here so that, I can handle your daily communications and stuff, and you can handle the big stuff there. And man, from there, that was 5 years ago almost.
Yeah.
And from there, it's just kind of exploded to what it is now. And, I can say, working for and with Jake, it's one of those things where, you know, Jake will do anything for you. You know, he'll take the shirt off his back if he needs to, and if you need one, you know. And it's been a blessing. It's been a blessing being around the game as much as I have, and watching all these kids grow up and play and stuff. It's been a lot of fun.
Well, thanks, Andrew. I played a couple years of junior college baseball at SC4 up in the Port Huron area. So started my journey as a player. You know, I played in all of the USSSA travel events growing up. You know, the Super NITs at Liberty Park. You know, the state tournaments, the Firecracker. You know, played in all that stuff. So it holds a really special spot, you know, in my heart. My freshman year of college, I got a job with Michigan USSSA, basically working part-time as a site director. I would work the merch tent. I would just do anything that they needed me to do. You know, a little bit of our history of USSSA. My cousin Donnie DiDonatis was actually the state director at the time, and then his dad, my uncle, was the CEO of USSSA. He basically took, my uncle Don did, he took USSSA from a slow pitch softball organization that was in the red and made it into the multi-sport, you know, powerhouse that it was. Unfortunately, you know, we can touch on that. It's unfortunately on the decline now. But that's how I got started. I started working for Donnie, worked my way up. 2018, he ended up becoming the CEO of USSSA, and I became the state director of USSSA. Fast forward to 2022, I believe. I moved down to Florida to help Donnie down at national office. And that's basically where Andrew comes into play. It might have been 2021 because I think we've been working together for five years now. But basically, I was stretched thin. I was the general manager of the USSSA Space Coast facility down in Florida. I was also the state director up in Michigan for UTRIP, trying to run all the tournaments. And Andrew basically reached out to me. He's like, dude, I know you're spread thin. I can really help you. You know, like let's do this. And I just, from the first phone call, as the kids say, the vibes were right, you know. And
Yep.
we just hit it off, man. And I've been so lucky to have him the last 5 years. He's been a very big part of what we've turned this thing into, and I wouldn't have rather done it with anyone else, you know. So from the general manager position, I became the national director of sports for USSSA, and I was the state director for USSSA up until a couple weeks ago when we switched over to Perfect Game. So that's pretty much our background with you know, USSSA in Michigan.
So as you just kind of mentioned, you've had a long run with USSSA, especially here in Michigan, where those events kind of really became a weekend tradition for families and organizations alike. Just like how you said, the Firecracker tournament, that had instant flashbacks for me, and good and bad. Looking back on that experience coming up with USSSA, what were really some of the biggest lessons or takeaways from running those events? Maybe something that most people wouldn't see that's kind of behind the scenes in a way.
Put the customer first. That's first and foremost. You know, do whatever you can to get as many games in as you can. If you get weather, do whatever you can to constantly improve your, you know, the experience for the parents, for the coaches, for the kids. You know, whether it's getting schedules out early, taking schedule requests, you know, making sure tournaments are seated the right way, trying to get the best awards. You know, trying to get the best umpires. That's a thing that people don't talk about enough.
No.
We made an umpire switch last year. We got a new IC, and honestly, it's the best thing I've ever done. You know, like it's a scary thing to do as a director, to just try something new. That's such a big part of your business when you're so comfortable doing something for so long. But I can honestly say, like, that couldn't have worked out better for us, and we're only going to get better, especially under our new brand and the new ways we're going to recruit umpires and stuff like that. That's only going to get better. So I think just putting the customer first, putting the kids first. I think if you do those things, that's the biggest thing I've learned. You're going to be successful.
So with you guys moving on over to Perfect Game, with you guys targeting the youth side of things, there might be a handful of people that aren't super familiar with Perfect Game as a whole. They probably most people understand that they have a big reach, down south and as a high school and national level. Explain a little bit about what Perfect Game is going to be coming up to here in Michigan, and really what was it about their really overall philosophy or approach that really stood out to you, and what made it feel like Perfect Game was the next step for you guys?
The thing that stood out the most is just the brand, right? Like the Perfect Game brand. When you think of travel baseball, you think of Perfect Game. The other thing is just the draw that Perfect Game has, and I want the best for all the kids playing baseball in Michigan. And I think going to Perfect Game gave us that opportunity with drawing more teams into the Metro Detroit area. I'll let Andrew get into the tech stuff, like the player profiles and just like they're all state games, they're showcases, this is something that I think is just they're light years ahead of where we came from in coming to Perfect Game. But for us, that was the biggest thing, and I can see I was in those positions with USSSA to see where things are going. I was in those meetings and I was running a lot of those meetings, and like Perfect Game is just, they're doing this. And, we had the opportunity to jump on board. And I feel like it was the best decision for travel baseball in Michigan was for us to take this opportunity.
Overall, it's hard to explain the experience that we've had already with Perfect Game from the leaders, with Perfect Game, the amount of support that we get, the amount of attention kind of that they want to bring to Michigan themselves and stuff, and have a couple of directors that have been experienced and know a lot of our teams and our players around here. It's been an incredible journey so far. As far as the tech stuff goes, though, I mean, having these player profiles, having Diamond Cast being able to run at these events, having, just an honestly obscenely better background as far as like the tech, the email system, the text messaging system, the scheduling system,
the app,
the app. Like there's so much to it that it really feels like kind of a corporate level. Of there's just so many people. I've met so many people in the past 2 weeks that I'm like, really? Like they have these people doing this stuff with tournament companies? It is an obscene amount. And the best part is they're all over the country. We've met people from Washington all the way up to, I believe there was somebody from Vermont, obviously down in the South as well, Philadelphia, and the amount of just, hey, whatever you guys need, let us know. We'll get it taken care of. Hey, let's bounce ideas off of each other. It's some of the stuff goes unseen, to the general public and everything, but the amount of experience that we're getting on the back end is just, it's incredible.
And to touch on the corporate feel thing, that was like that was good to me, but that wasn't for me. It wasn't like a huge draw, because we've built a business based off of being available, talking and building relationships with, these organizations and the owners of these organizations and doing all that stuff. So I want to make sure that, anyone listening to this knows that Perfect Game is still going to let us do that, do our thing. We will still be available. We will still be working directly with those guys, working for those teams and doing whatever they need from registration and insurance standpoints. And it's not just
experience already.
So it's not going to be like, this is, you got to do this now. No, we're still running this ship. We are still going to be available, and we're going to do whatever our customers need us to do.
And in fact, to touch on that, they want us to focus on that. That's what the corporate feel that I'm talking about is that if we're having a tech issue or anything, we don't have to worry on our end of like, oh crap, I got to stop doing what I'm doing to try to fix this. It's send this out to me. You continue to make your relationships, be in front of your organizations, make sure that your parents are happy. They want us taking care of our teams.
When you look at the tournament model that between the two, what are the biggest differences between how USSSA operated and how PG is looking to structure the youth events, if there is any differences. Obviously, the Diamond Cast is one, and if you could kind of touch on a little bit what that is. So for those that might not understand what Diamond Cast is, how big, and I know it's going to be a big player, but how big of a player this is now going to be for these events?
Absolutely. So we're going to have what's called like tier 1 and tier 2 events, right? So the tier 1 events are going to have Diamond Cast, and the tier 2 events are not going to have Diamond Cast, but we will have the like it's called spectator scoring with Diamond Cast, and that's a new thing that they are implementing and rolling out across the country. So basically, just whoever the scorekeeper is, they'll keep score on Diamond Cast, so they'll still be on Diamond Cast. But basically, Diamond Cast is we will have people out there, taking stats on Diamond Cast, which is a very similar app to Game Changer.
Yep.
But it's Perfect Game's own app, right? And they own all the data and they get all the stats and all that stuff. We'll be streaming the games on PG TV for those events, which is an awesome tool that PG has.
That's really cool. Yeah.
PG TV, it's sweet, right? So we're gonna be doing that. As far as like the well, and then the other thing too is like, so those stats from those games are going to get built into those kids' profiles, right? So when you play in one of those events, you'll be in the event. Those stats are going to be going right to those kids' events, to those teams, and everything else who are participating in those events. And I think that's really, really cool. Obviously. And we're going to do it for all levels too. Like there are opportunities for AA teams, AAA teams, major teams to all participate in events like that. That's another thing we're still going to do up here in Michigan. I know a lot of people have asked us to, is we're still going to classify teams, and we're still going to make sure teams are playing where they need to play. There's not going to be any sandbagging. Like if you're playing in AA and you're going 7-0 and your run differential's 10, you're getting bumped up to AAA. You know what I mean? That's been big for us in our careers, and we're not going to, steer away from that. We're going to continue that. But as far as the actual events themselves, like we're still going to structure them as far as like, most of just the normal events are going to be 3-game guarantees. The World Series is going to be a 4-game guarantee. There's going to be no on-site gate fees this year for any events, even the World Series. That's a lot of pushback we would get, is having an on-site gate fee for the World Series. But other than that, I mean, we still kept all the same facilities, like we have all those contracts. So it's, as far as that goes, it's going to be like whatever experience you had with us from a tournament standpoint, you're still going to get that, plus all the extra added bonuses that Perfect Game provides us for you.
And to really close us out here, first off, before I go into that, I wish you guys would have came out with this about a month earlier, because of course, the one time I'm trying to get on top of all of my tournament budgets and get my schedule set, you guys decided to drop this hammer here a couple of weeks ago. So I appreciate at least a little bit of heads up here with this. So I do appreciate that. Now, if a coach or an organization is maybe in my situation where I'm trying to set my schedule for 2026 and they want to, whether it's chat with you guys or look up what's going on, what's the best way for them to reach out or to get their team signed up for the events here in 2026?
You can reach out to Andrew and I, emails, text messages, phone calls. I mean, we have people message us on Facebook all the time. However you can get a hold of us, go ahead. Just reach out. If you have any questions about events or registration, we can help you get your team registered with Perfect Game. We can help you get insurance. We can get you registered for all of your events without payment. So if you come in and say, hey, Jake or Andrew, like we want to sign up for these 6 events, like, well, you better hurry, because, we plan on selling out again like we did last year for most of these events. Well, we can also get your spot saved without having to take payment right away. So get us that schedule. We'll get you listed in events, and just get a hold of us. We're happy to help. That's what we're here for.
And furthermore, if you're interested in helping with Diamond Cast or anything like that, reach out to us as well. Because we are going to need people to work Diamond Cast. We're always looking for umpires as well. If you're an experienced umpire, please contact us so that we can get you in touch with our UIC. I know that he's planning some new trainings and stuff as well for all the umpires there, so that we're all on the same page and growing. Like Jake said, we want to provide the best experience for all of our teams there. So if you have any interest in helping with the events, please email us, call us, text us, Facebook message us, anything.
lots of cool employment opportunities for former players that came up through the organization that need some side money. You know, like it's a lot of cool things happening.
If you are watching this here on YouTube, this obviously you'll see this by now. It's flashed up on your screen. If you are listening to this wherever you get your podcasts, you can always go to the Cold Weather Bats social media to get that contact information for Jake and Andrew. Guys, really, really awesome stuff. Really appreciate you guys taking the time here today. I'm sitting here, in my home office looking up at my perfect game trophy that I won back down in Florida a couple of years ago, but it's really exciting that to seeing Perfect Game making such a strong push here in Michigan and really the Midwest as a whole. And I know a lot of teams are looking forward to jumping into that first weekend here. I know myself included, and really looking forward to everything moving forward here. All right. Well, thanks to Jake and Andrew for spending the time with us. This was just a clip of our interview. If you want to get the whole interview, which we went just about over a half hour with these guys, head on over to our Patreon to get that full interview here. So it's going to flash up here on your screen if you're on YouTube, patreon.com/coldweatherbats. Again, patreon.com/coldweatherbats. Get that full interview and get the whole breakdown of what is coming up with Perfect Game and beyond. Talked a little more with them, and there is some things they can't get into just yet, but it's going to be fun these next few years with what is coming in the state of Michigan with Perfect Game. So that wraps up for today's episode here at Cold Weather Bats. I'd like to thank you all for tuning on in. As always, be sure to go to any of our socials to stay up to date with all of our shows, our posts, our podcasts, everywhere in between. If you're on Spotify, click that subscribe button, please. Click the link, the like and subscribe button so you can get notified anytime we put up a brand new episode. Brandon is a big fan of checking every time we get a new subscriber. So please be sure. He gets very happy and a big smile on his face every single time. So go hit that button. Again, we will be back with our next iteration of the next 5. That'll be number 80 through 76. I actually had to do math, and that took me some seconds to figure out. 80 through 76 of our top 100. That'll be coming out to you in the next week or so. So be sure to stay tuned for all of that information. Brandon, any final thoughts here before we sign off?
No final thoughts. I just think it's like I said, the in-betweens. Make the most of it. If you're a player listening, I would advise you to find a way. I think if you're listening to Cold Weather Bats, then you probably understand the work that goes into this at this point. You're probably a pretty serious player. But if you're wondering, now is certainly the time. So enjoy it. If you're playing basketball, I would advise, or wrestling or any winter sport, I'd advise trying to find a way to get swings in. But most importantly, either maintain your weight or don't lose good weight. That's the biggest issue with winter sports. Huge three-sport athlete guy, huge two-sport athlete guy. Always encourage my players to go play whatever sport they want to play in any capacity. I would never want to take a kid away from a sport that he enjoys. I advise you to just make sure your weight is maintained. If you're a guy that needs the weight. Now, if you are a bit of a husky fellow and you are looking to lose some weight from the winter sports, then by all means. But if you are still determined in your mind to be a bit undersized, or you're looking just in general, you have goals of getting physically bigger this off season and you're playing winter sport, you have to track your weight. You've got to make sure you're eating right. So highly advised just keeping track of that. That's a make or breaker for some D1 guys. Absolutely.
And that goes through really the youth kids too. If you are not only in high school yet, play those other sports, get those swings in still, throw, do all the same things, eat good. It's probably the easiest one you can do and do wrong as well. So be sure to eat good. But with that said, thank you for tuning on in, and we will see you next week.